Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I remember vividly the morning of the 8th of October. The first conversations I had expressed what I thought would be an urgent need to put in place protections for places of worship in Australia: synagogues, churches, mosques, Jewish schools, community centres, because I knew from bitter personal experience the terrible ramifications that the horrific massacre of October 7th would have, the unleashing of that dreadful, dark hatred and violence that saw the largest loss of Jewish life since the Holocaust, the massacre of 1,200 people and the capturing of 250 hostages. The 15 months of war, death and destruction, the loss of tens of thousands of innocent Palestinian lives, the displacement of millions, the deep, indescribable pain of Jewish Australians who lost loved ones in the kibbutz, and the Palestinian Australian teacher in my lecturate who lost a dozen family members in the bombing of Gaza, joined only in the darkness of their grief, that is the sad remaining remnant of shared humanity. And the unleashing of the vile scourge of an ancient hatred of anti-Semitism now visited upon Jewish Australians, I can only explain it as a dark dread in the pit of my stomach that these ancient animosities, these ancient hatreds that had wound their way through thousands of years would have come to hurt our people in Australia because of their faith or their ethnic backgrounds. It is a violent, ancient hatred, anti-Semitism. It's run its wicked course throughout history, through the pogroms of Europe to the culmination of the greatest horror mankind had ever perpetrated on itself in the Holocaust, and now into our Jewish Australian community who feel this ancient scourge in an unprecedented way in modern-day Australia. I considered in late 2023 that we would not only be facing a political storm but also a moral storm, and in those moments, in the eye of a storm, it's important to hold fast the mast that are our principles, to go through the battering of the storm to find calmer waters on the other side. But what are these principles, Deputy Speaker? That no Australian should be subject to violence and hatred because of their faith or their ethnic identity. This goes to the heart of social cohesion, that we can disagree, that we can have deeply held viewpoints of the world that are different from one another, but that our society only works when we are able to navigate those differences peacefully and respectfully without resorting to violence or hate speech. At every turn, the government has unequivocally condemned anti-Semitism and has taken extensive policy and legislative measures to protect the Jewish Australian community and tackle anti-Semitism, but legal sanctions from any government can only go so far. The deep hatred within people who think that violence is a legitimate form of expressing their political or ideological views, that has to change. That has to be addressed beyond legal sanction. And that happens when representatives in this place, grassroots communities across Australia and every individual Australian citizen understand that we all have a responsibility to engage and navigate our differences peacefully. I confess, Deputy Speaker, I don't know whether the rise of anti-Semitism that we've seen across Australia is from a very loud and violent minority, or whether what we're seeing is an unleashing of an ancient hatred that has always existed, lurking underneath. I sincerely hope it's the former. In my heart, I believe that the vast majority of Australians are inherently good people who give each other a fair go regardless of their faith backgrounds and reject violence and hate as a means to an end. This small but vocal and loud minority who hold hatred in their hearts, who seek to break down our cohesive society through violence and intimidation, the leadership here in this place and across the country, in every community, in every citizen believing and committing to their nation and citizenship, the responsibility to protect it from violence, that's what will defeat that hatred. Unfortunately, we've seen in this place those who have sought to use the human tragedy to politicise attacks on Jewish Australians for their own short-term political gain, and worse, fan the very flames of hatred. That's an abrogation of responsibility as democratic representatives. We have to see beyond the short-term political prism to take actions and speak words that go to protecting and supporting all Australians, regardless of their faith or identity, and calling out the hatreds such as anti-Semitism, not sowing division and discord to make short-term political gain. This is our responsibility to the Jewish Australian community so that we can once again make sure that they feel safe and secure in this country.
Order the question.